Yes, thank you. Thanks, Senators, for working with us on this, and thanks for the work that you continued on with 2218. That was the topic we wanted to come together on, and I might ask either the revisor or our Senate counterparts if you'd care to walk us through the work that you did after it left the House. You can defer to research or take it on yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. David, I think I'll have you just go over the changes that we made, and then I can add additional reasons for those changes.
Sure, Madam Chair. Yeah, the Senate Ways and Means Committee made some changes here. Inserted the new, what's now the new Section 1, 756501. And the amendment itself is actually there on line 17 through 19 of the bill that just says the State Employees Healthcare Commission shall balance the healthcare needs of state employees at an affordable cost to the employees with the financial impact on the state. So that was one of the amendments. And then there was also the insertion of KSA 756509. That would be Section 3 of the bill now. The amendment there is on page 5, begins line 4 through 9, and that just says that the recommendation shall include a report on the current and projected reserve balance, including as a percentage of the total plan expenses for any reserve balance over 10% of expected plan expenses for the next plan year. The Commission shall provide recommendations for reducing reserves by minimizing increases to employee contributions or cost sharing requirements. So that was the amendments to that section. And then sort of with the underlying 2218 had left the House with the makeup of the Healthcare Commission, that the Senate committee amended the composition of that to now include 7 members of the commission instead of 5 as in the current law. And we retain the House amendments to that say that the current state employee would be enrolled in the state healthcare benefits group insurance medical plan. So they now no longer have to be that classified service. They could be classified or unclassified as long as they're enrolled in the plan. And then that's the same amendment for the retired, somebody retired from position in a classified or unclassified service as long as they're currently enrolled in the plan. So that amendment didn't change from the House. What the Senate did was add a 6th member, would be a member of the Senate Ways and Means Committee appointed by the President of the Senate, and then would add a member of House Appropriations Committee appointed by the Speaker. So there'd be 2 additional members. There'd be legislative members. And there was also then in subsection B that the member appointed by the President of the Senate would serve at the pleasure of the President, and the member appointed by the Speaker serves at the pleasure of the Speaker. And then with the increase of the composition, would then increase the amount of members who could be from the same political party. So now it's no more than 5 members of the commission shall be members from the same political party. The additional amendment then was also then on the chair of the commission. Under current law, it's designated by the governor. The Senate amendment would say that to be the Commissioner of Insurance would be the chair of the commission in odd-numbered years, and the Secretary of Administration would be the chair in even-numbered years. So they would flip back and forth depending on the year. And then and then just the quorum changed, since now there's 7 members, the quorum was changed from 3 to 4 to reflect the increased membership. I believe that's all the amendments that the Senate put on, Madam Chair. And stand for any questions or if you have any other thoughts.
If I might, I'll just give a little bit of reasoning behind some of those amendments. That'll be helpful. On page 1 of the bill, you saw that the State Employee Health Care Commission shall balance the health at an affordable cost. You'll see that later in the bill. But before I also expand on a few of these things, this bill was introduced to allow the Department of Administration to increase the pool of individuals that they have to be on the healthcare advisory board, because the classified versus unclassified has changed significantly since the last decade, and they needed a larger pool to do that. So some of the Senate amendments had to do with in addition to trying to figure out how we can do some healthcare savings, but also increase the representation. So you will see on page 4, the Healthcare Commission is composed of 5 members, which is the Commissioner of Insurance, the Secretary of Administration, current state employee, currently enrolled, and appointed by the governor, and a person who is retired from a position that currently uses it, and then a state service employee also is part of that. The Senate added a member from the Senate Ways and Means Committee and a member from the House Appropriations Committee to be part of that commission because of the costs and the details of these plans and the amount of money that goes into them and are expended through various programs such as Marathon Health, such as Health Quest, and those types of things. In addition, to add a safeguard that not more than 5 of those members can be of the same party. And then the other addition.
Senator, we can continue in some part, but would you have time for us to go vote and return?
No, that's fine. We're probably standing at ease and doing conferences, so no problem.
Okay,
Wait.
thanks.
We'll pick up on page 4.
We'll be okay. We'll take some action later, but we've got the chance to have discussion. On the advisory board, one question I had. Is that uniform, or can they hear all of us or not? Okay, that one, okay. So do we want to go back and have her say everything she said?
So, no, I think we'll get into it here. So we'll go ahead and go with your questions.
Great. I wondered if the duties of the additional commission members from the legislature would be, I don't know how much time it takes, what it is versus the legislative session, and if that fits well, or if that offers any hindrance to the process by having the legislators on the commission, or it was just a question that I had, given the duties that everybody has, and does that fit well with the needs?
Hang on here. I hope we're not voting. This is really crazy.
It's kind of how often and when do they meet, and what does that do? Do they
Kind
need?
of strange. I guess it's your office. They were trying to get Johnson to come vote.
Oh, are they?
Do you want to?
Say, come back, please.
Okay, we'll just pause. I'm going to get those reports. we can start up again.
Great, thank you. Thank you for excusing our delay and the chance to get to the floor. So I can continue with questions.
Why don't you
can
ask
continue
that
with
question again?
So I was just curious how the members of the legislature in serving on the commission, if there's anything that might make that challenging for the commission to operate, such as the timing of what their needs are and the amount of time the commission might want to consume during the legislative session, whether that's an issue or not. I'm just not sure how often or how long they meet.
The commission meets quarterly, and in addition to that, there are other things, contracts, or what was it, Melissa, that can come up from time to time.
They would also have legal matters or some things that cannot wait until the next meeting, but those would be announced special meetings, or if they needed additional information from vendors, they have called special meetings.
So their base amount of time that they meet, hand please to those three and then these two. Just getting you the whole document. We'll probably just refer to page 14 for now. But so they meet quarterly and then any other additional times that they need to meet. But if you also, think about how in the past year things have changed to where you can do things, WebEx, Zoom, those kinds of things. The purpose of putting those individuals on there is that this plan is approximately, we run $460 million through it. We as legislators were the ones that voted to have Marathon Health. We as legislators, are part of the Health Care Quest plan. And we as legislators are also state employees as well. When this started in 1987 or so, it has not, even on the advisory board, has not had the opportunity for a legislator to be on that. So the thinking is just having another couple sets of eyes on this, because the reason you're conferencing with the Ways and Means Committee is we have had them come in pretty much on an annual basis to explain how the program is working and that type of thing. And so, again, it's not like we have not asked questions that goes through this commission in the past.
So thank you, and that's helpful. On the special meetings, I know that they are special, is there any history of how often those are called or time of year?
It would vary by year. There is currently a legal matter that they have been addressing, case filed in district court. So they have had, it appears, 2 special meetings and a closed meeting in March. One of their closed meetings was to discuss and prepare strategies for the negotiation of plans and contracts. Their largest meeting or longest time-consuming meeting generally happens in April or early May, and that is to start reviewing plan design and contracts for the upcoming plan year. And they also receive regular reports from the Employee Advisory Commission.
So thank you. And the 3 meetings that were in March, were those just like an hour, hour and a half, or were they fairly involved meetings?
I think the total time took less than an hour. The time that the public was in the meeting was about 5 to 10 minutes, since some of it had to be closed.
So, would you like me to continue with the rest of the reasonings on?
Certainly, thanks.
So, again, I think when you were asked to go back to the floor, I shared that would go from 5 to 7. And no more than 5 individuals will be of one party of that. And then we have in here that the commission chair would change from the insurance commissioner in odd numbers, and secretary of administration in even numbers. And I have some more information about that when it's appropriate to talk about that. And then finally, on page 5, The recommendation shall include a report on the current and projected reserves balance, and that for any reserve balance over 10% of the expected expenses for the next year, the commission shall provide recommendations for reducing reserves by minimizing the increases to the employee contribution or cost-sharing requirements. I'd like to talk a little bit about the balances. On page 14 of your handout that I provided with you, if you look under planned expenses, you have a little bit more breakdown there. But basically, the reserves are two types of reserves. One is the incurred but not reported, and they are claims that have been incurred but have not been paid. And then the second part are claims. It's the claims fluctuation reserve account, and then that's 5.5% of the claims. So of that total amount, the 400 and looks like 60 million, if you have, which goes into your medical, your personal, your dental, and those types of things, of that, 13% of the 424 million is about 55.1 million. And then you have the extra 10%, and I don't have my notes very clear here, but the 10% that you would be looking at. So you subtract that and you end up with approximately an extra $13 million to just take a look at. And one of the arguments I heard was that against this was, we don't know if there's secondary impacts from COVID. We don't know how much individuals have put off, what do you call, alternative surgeries, elective surgeries. But the way this language is written is that the commission, all they have to do is say, this year we happen to know, or we're seeing a trend here, and they can put that in the report. But the hope here is to figure out how to start saving money for our employees. And I'll have you go to, again, I'm having you go to a graph. Right. Go to page 19 in your handout. And Chairman Johnson, I think this is going to go back to a comment you had about looking at 3 to 5 year trends. You look at the lower level, how the reserves have started to go down. And then in 2011, what happened to our insurance plan is it went up because under that administration, we increased co-pays, we changed deductibles, out-of-pocket expenses, and the like. And a lot of that was driven by trying to make sure that we could have a balanced budget. So our rates went up, and then you can see that it has changed once again. But if you look at this chart, you can, I think if you looked at a possible 3 to 5 year averaging, I think that would be a good thing to add into this. So you're not looking year to year because you can see that it's volatile. And so I would be interested in that if that is something that you have an interest in. And I think that's basically the major points that we put in the budget.
So thank you, and those are the areas where I would agree to go in reverse order on the topics, looking at the plan. I'd agree with a 3 to 5. I don't know that I have a strong preference, but I think that would be useful in the timing to consider if there's anything that coincides with either of those numbers that already happens. I just don't know enough to know if there's anything that might drive us one way or the other. I wasn't sure if the change in leadership how that would work for the commission, and if there is another solution that might have the input that we're seeking there, or what would work the most smoothly. So would again just be a question, but if there are ideas to address those two things, that would be great. And then the first item I had was only a question: how does that work for employees and the legislators on the commission? Is the board a place for input? Is the commission the best place for that input? And I think that you've answered that fairly directly. So, but I would be curious your thoughts on those other two.
Yes, I had some further conversation with the Department of Administration, and she did indicate that changing the chairmanship is not like what we do. We change our chairmanships year to year. We have staff that's always there as our backup. We ask them to do quite a bit of the work. In talking to the Secretary of Administration, she said that there is quite a bit of work to do when you're looking at contracts, RFPs. It's really not something that a person can just step in and change back and forth. So that may be something that we need to look at and just maybe keep it the same.
Do you have a preference, or do we know where we might look to guide us between 3 and 5? And I don't know that it matters. I think any of them are probably fine on the timing of the 10% review.
On the averaging?
On the averaging, yes.
Well, in looking at this graph, it appears to me that, I mean, it looks like 3 is too short, and 5 might be too long or too late. I mean, that's the, if you look at the upper part, I think I just leave that up to all the conferees, whether you want a 3 or a 5. You're averaging on that. A 3 might be able to pick up some trends a little bit quicker. But, 5 always gives you a longer perspective.
So those are the questions. Does anyone else have some questions on the plan? Okay. Well, I might just to move forward. I think the comments on the 3-year make sense if we look towards a 3-year average rather than a 1-year average on that item. Do you know what change you might recommend on the chairmanship? If that stays the same, then would that stay with the Secretary of Administration? Is that the current?
Historically, it's been the Secretary of Administration, so I would suggest that we just leave it with the Secretary of Administration.
Okay. So, and again, I don't know what's better or worse, just the questions that were there, and if you would agree that that would be our direction at the time, that sounds good. And then the additional input on the board, thanks for addressing those questions. Are there any other things that we should talk about that are on your list of things to thoroughly consider?
I think that's it. I think the only item that, I know that some people have brought to my attention is that concern on page 5. But again, and I'll ask David or Melissa, David, yeah. To be sure and to be clear, if something would happen to where the reserve balance is not even 10% or is 11%, again, the way this language is written is that the commission shall just provide recommendations or reducing reserves by minimizing increases to the employee contributions or cost-sharing requirements. Does not have to be taken.
Madam Chair, that, yeah, the way the language reads now, it's, yeah, they provide the recommendations, and it's up to the legislature to act on those or not act on those.
So there's flexibility. It's just trying to establish a goal line to look at and how we can do savings.
So with that, I think we have the changes as proposed by the Senate, with possibly 2 on the table, with the change to the Secretary of Administration on the chair and the change from a 1 to a 3-year average on the 10% report. And for expediency, if I can continue to indulge the patience of the 3, if we just take a moment and see if we're close enough to come to an agreement, I'd like to do that and not have to schedule a subsequent one, if that's all right. Thank you. All right, thank you, Senators, and everyone watching for your patience while we, or at least I, was trying to get caught up with everything. On the Senate changes that are there, I think we're at a point where we're glad to work with it. We have some concern in whether the turnover of legislators at any time or whatever that could be in the future. So we'd be interested in kind of seeing how that works as well. But I don't know that we have a formal request to say, here's how we want to review that, but to say, let's make sure that we're adding value in the process as well. Then as we move to the other points, agreeing with the changes that the Senate has and the changes that we have, I believe, talked about, which would be the chair would stay the same over time, and that we would go to a 3-year average on the report. And with those two changes and the one consideration, if we just keep that in the back of our mind, we would be ready to work with you on that if that is something that you would agree to.
Yes, and I also wanted to point out what staff pointed out to me on page 1. I didn't come back to that, but on section 1, it really clarifies exactly what the report and what the commission is supposed to do. You're supposed to take the state employees' health care and balance the needs of the health care needs of the state employees at an affordable cost to the employees and the financial impact of the state. And that was put in there to tie in with being very specific with the language that's on page 5. I think we are in agreement. We're good on this side.
Thanks for the Senate's work to dive deeper into the bill, which had a great start to get us moving to have good representation for the state on the commission.
And thank you for your work as well.
Madam Chair? This is David.
David?
Just for drafting purposes, I just want to make sure, when you say that the chair goes back to how it is, does that mean it's still going to be designated by the governor, or are we designating the Secretary of Administration? I know that's kind of how it works in practice, but I don't know how you want to have it in the bill for the report.
David, can you tell us how often that has changed? Because as long as I can remember, it's been the Secretary of Administration.
Yeah, I don't know how often it changes. I think it's generally is the Secretary of Administration. I don't know if it's ever been somebody else. I don't have that background. So,
But it's the governor's designee.
yeah, that's the way it is under current law, be designated by the governor.
Madam Chair, I might say to leave that as it's stated unless there's a key reason for that.
Current law. Just, yeah. Anything else, David?
And then on the 3-year average, is that still going to be, is that a look back or a look forward? I just want, because I mean, right now it's expected plan expenses for the next year. I don't know if they do they go out as much as 3 years or not, or if that's a look back on the previous 3 years and kind of a rolling average. But
I agree, and what I was thinking about is it is a look back, but they're always looking forward in their plan anyway. So, yes. So it'll be a look back. But again, going back to that example about if, you know, they find out people are getting more elected surgeries, that's why they have that reserve account also, but that could be in the report and just say, we can't see any cost savings because of the predictions that we see that are coming. We'll see what you draft there, David.
all right,
Anything else, David?
I think that's it.